The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy sat in their floating pods, all eyes fixed on the massive holographic display in the center. It showed a small fleet of ships, recently discovered at the edge of what the Council considered primitive space. These vessels belong to a species calling themselves humans, announced Council Elder Voss, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. The Elder's blue skin wrinkled as he studied the readings. Their ships are remarkably small compared to our standard vessels. In the back of the chamber, Lord Thax of the Dominion Empire barely held back a laugh. His massive frame, covered in ceremonial armor, shifted as he leaned forward to get a better look. The human ships indeed looked like toys compared to the mighty dreadnoughts of his fleet. The Council's attention shifted as a new signal came through. The humans request direct communication, Elder Voss announced, pressing a glowing button on his pod's control panel. A hologram appeared, showing a human in a crisp military uniform. "I am Admiral Reed of the Human Defense Fleet," the figure announced clearly. "We come with peaceful intentions and wish to establish diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council." Lord Thax couldn't contain himself any longer. His booming laugh filled the chamber. Peaceful intentions, with those tiny vessels. He rose from his seat, his armor gleaming under the chamber's lights. Those ships looked like escape pods compared to a proper warship. Admiral Reed's expression remained neutral, but those watching closely might have noticed a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. "Size isn't everything, Lord Thax. We hope to demonstrate that humanity has much to offer the galactic community. The only thing you'll demonstrate is how quickly such vessels can be crushed." Thax sneered. "Your entire fleet would fit in the cargo hold of one of our dreadnoughts." Elder Voss raised his hand for silence. "Lord Thax, this is a diplomatic meeting. The humans have shown no hostility. No hostility because they know their limitations." Thax interrupted. "Look at their ships. The largest one is barely 200 meters long. Our smallest patrol vessel is 5 times that size." In the hologram, Admiral Reed remained calm. "We understand our ships may seem unusual by your standards. However, we believe in efficiency and innovation over sheer size." Innovation. Thax spat the word like it was poison. "There's nothing innovative about building inadequate ships. The laws of physics themselves demand proper size for proper military capability." Other council members began murmuring among themselves. Many seemed to agree with Thax's assessment. Their own civilizations had learned long ago that bigger ships meant better shields, stronger weapons, and more impressive displays of power. "Perhaps," Reed replied softly, "you'd be interested in a joint military exercise, a friendly demonstration of capabilities." "A demonstration." Thax roared with laughter again. "I wouldn't waste the fuel. Come back when you've built real ships, human. The Dominion Empire has no time for children playing with toys in space." Elder Voss tried once more to maintain diplomatic courtesy. "Admiral Reed, please understand that your ship designs are unusual by our standards. While we welcome peaceful contact, perhaps your engineers would benefit from studying our established shipbuilding principles." "Thank you for the offer, Elder," Reed responded politely. "We'll certainly consider it. However, we're quite confident in our current designs." The meeting continued for another hour, but the tone had been set. Most council members viewed the humans as primitive newcomers, barely worth their attention. Only a few noticed how Admiral Reed remained unruffled by the mockery, or how the human ship's energy readings seemed oddly masked. As the human hologram faded away, Lord Thax turned to his advisors. "Send a message to the Dominion fleet," he commanded. "It's time we showed these humans their place in the galaxy. Prepare the dreadnoughts for a peaceful display of force." In his own ship, light years away, Admiral Reed sent a very different message. Operation Scattered Stars is now in effect. They took the bait. Prepare all ships for Phase 2. The first moves had been made. The Dominion Empire, like so many others before them, had made the fatal mistake of judging capability by size alone. They would learn their errors soon enough. In the dimly lit intelligence center of Earth's orbital defense station, Jack Stone stared at his screen with growing concern. The data streaming in from human spy probes was painting a troubling picture of Dominion fleet movements. "Admiral Reed needs to see this immediately," he muttered, quickly compiling the information. The massive alien ships weren't just performing exercises. They were gathering for something bigger. Within an hour, Stone stood before Admiral Reed and Earth's military leadership in the underground command center. The room's walls displayed real-time projections of Dominion fleet positions. As you can see, Stone pointed to a cluster of red dots. They're assembling their largest dreadnoughts. Our probes count at least 20 ships, each one nearly the size of a small moon. Admiral Reed nodded slowly. "They're planning to pacify us, aren't they?" "Yes, sir. We intercepted communications between Lord Thax and his fleet commanders. They plan to arrive with overwhelming force, expecting us to surrender at the mere sight of their armada." The room fell silent. Then, surprisingly, Admiral Reed smiled. "Perfect. They're playing right into our hands." General Thompson, head of Earth's ground forces, leaned forward. "Sir, should we begin evacuating our coastal cities? Those ships could cause devastating damage." "No evacuation needed, General." Reed walked to the main display and pressed several buttons. The image changed to show Earth's defense grid. Thousands of tiny dots appeared, scattered across the solar system. Operation Scattered Stars is already in position. Stone's eyes widened as he realized what he was seeing. "Are those all our ships, sir?" "Every single one," Reed confirmed. "While the Dominion was busy mocking our tiny fleet, we've been positioning our forces throughout the entire system. They think we only have the few ships we showed at the council meeting." Another officer spoke up. "But sir, even with all our ships, they're still so much bigger than ours. Their weapons." "Size isn't everything, Major," Reed interrupted. He pressed another button, and a detailed scan of a Dominion dreadnought appeared. "Look here. Their ships are big because they're built like floating cities. Crew quarters, entertainment decks, massive cargo holds. Only about 30% of their ship mass is actually dedicated to military systems." Stone nodded as understanding dawned. "While our ships are pure military efficiency," Reed finished. "No wasted space, no luxury decks, every cubic meter dedicated to engines, weapons, or essential systems. That's why they're smaller." General Thompson whistled. "And they have no idea." "None," Reed confirmed. "Their scans can't penetrate our quantum shielding. They think our ships are primitive because they're small. They don't realize we've achieved in 200 meters what they waste 2,000 meters to accomplish." The room's atmosphere changed from concern to anticipation. Stone could feel the confidence building among the officers as Admiral Reed laid out humanity's true capabilities. "What about our new stealth systems?" someone asked. Reed's smile widened. "Fully operational. The Dominion sensors are based on standard galactic technology. They're not designed to detect our quantum signature masking. As far as they're concerned, their scans show everything there is to see." "When will they arrive?" General Thompson asked. Stone consulted his datapad. "At their current pace, 3 days. They're moving slowly, trying to look impressive." "Good." Reed turned to address the entire room. "Send word to all ships. Maintain radio silence. Keep our quantum shields at maximum. Let them think they're facing a primitive species with a handful of tiny ships." His eyes gleamed. "The Dominion is about to learn that humanity doesn't follow their rules of shipbuilding or warfare." As the officers filed out to prepare their forces, Stone remained behind with Admiral Reed. "Sir," he asked quietly, "do you think they'll ever realize their mistake, judging us by their standards?" Reed watched the dots representing the approaching Dominion fleet. "They will, Lieutenant. But by then, it'll be far too late." Outside Earth's atmosphere, thousands of human ships waited silently in the void. their advanced technology making them virtually invisible to standard scans. The Dominion Empire was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity's capabilities, and the true meaning of the phrase, size doesn't matter. Engineering Chief Maria Wells stood in her workshop aboard the human flagship Swift Victory, surrounded by holograms showing the inner workings of both human and alien ships. A group of young engineers listened intently as she explained humanity's greatest breakthrough. 10 years ago, she began, picking up a small cube that glowed with a soft blue light. We discovered something that changed everything. While other races were building bigger ships, we found a way to make things smaller. She placed the cube in a testing chamber. This is a quantum compressed dry system. What you're looking at is the same amount of power that the Dominion packs into a room the size of this entire workshop, all squeezed into something you can hold in your hand. The cube hummed to life, energy readings spiking on nearby monitors. One of the younger engineers raised his hand. "But Chief, why didn't other races develop this technology?" Maria smiled. "Because they never needed to. They had space to spare, so they built bigger. When you have all the room in the world, you don't think about making things smaller." She pulled up a comparison diagram. "Look at a Dominion ship engine room. It's massive, inefficient, and generates the same power as our compact systems." The display shifted to show a full ship comparison. The human vessel looked like a toy next to the Dominion dreadnought, but Maria zoomed in on specific sections. "See this?" She pointed to the alien ship's massive corridors. They build ships like floating cities, wide hallways, luxury quarters, entertainment decks. But look at our ships. The image shifted. Every centimeter serves a purpose. Compact corridors, efficient crew quarters, no wasted space. Another engineer spoke up. "Is that why our ships are faster?" "Exactly." Maria's eyes lit up. "Less mass to move, same amount of power. Their huge ships need massive engines just to maintain basic maneuverability. Our ships." She pulled up a simulation. "We can turn on a dime, accelerate twice as fast, and our power-to-mass ratio is off their charts." The workshop's door slid open, and Admiral Reed entered. The engineers snapped to attention, but he waved them off. "At ease. Chief Wells, would you show them the stealth systems? They should understand our full advantages before the battle." Maria nodded and switched the display. "This is our greatest secret. The quantum compression technology doesn't just make things smaller. It changes how our ships interact with space itself." The hologram showed energy waves passing around a human ship. Standard alien scanners look for big power signatures, large mass concentrations. Our compressed systems are so efficient, they barely register. Add our quantum signature masking. She pressed a button, and the ship seemingly disappeared from the sensor display, and were practically invisible to their standard detection systems. But surely they must have noticed something during scans. One of the engineers asked. Admiral Reed stepped forward. They saw exactly what they expected to see. Small, primitive ships with basic technology. Their own arrogance blinded them. They couldn't imagine that a primitive race would develop technology so different from their own. Maria brought up one final display. A tactical simulation showing a huge Dominion ship trying to track a much smaller, faster human vessel. Their targeting systems are designed to lock onto large, slow-moving objects. Our ships are too small and quick for their standard targeting algorithms. And by the time they realize this, Admiral Reed added, it will be too late to adapt their systems. An alert sounded throughout the ship. Admiral Reed checked his communications device and straightened. The Dominion fleet has just passed Jupiter's orbit. They'll be in range soon. He looked at the gathered engineers. Return to your posts. Remember what Chief Wells has shown you. Every small ship in our fleet carries the power of their massive dreadnoughts, but with better speed, stealth, and maneuverability. As the engineers filed out, Maria turned to Admiral Reed. They still think they're facing a handful of primitive vessels, don't they? Reed nodded. Lord Thax's last transmission called us space children playing with toys. He smiled grimly. He's about to learn that these toys have quite a bite. Throughout the solar system, thousands of human ships waited silently, their quantum-compressed systems making them nearly invisible to Dominion scans. The alien fleet approached with their massive ships, completely unaware that their size, their greatest source of pride, was about to become their biggest weakness. Lord Thax stood proudly on the command deck of his flagship, Imperial Might, as his massive fleet approached Earth. 20 enormous dreadnoughts, each one 5 kilometers long, moved forward in perfect formation. Their massive shadows would block out the sun over Earth's cities, a sight that had made countless other worlds surrender without a fight. "My lord," his sensor officer called out, "we detect only 6 small human vessels moving to intercept." Thax laughed deeply. "Not even a proper defense fleet, just the same tiny ships we saw before." He turned to his communication officer. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them to surrender now, and we'll be merciful." But before the message could be sent, something strange happened. The 6 human ships split up, each one heading in a different direction. They moved with surprising speed, far faster than ships that size should be able to travel. "Amusing," Thax sneered. "They think they can confuse us by running around like scared prey." He waved his hand dismissively. "Target the closest one. Show them what a real warship can do." The massive dreadnought's main gun charged up, gathering enough energy to vaporize a small moon. The targeting computer locked onto the nearest human vessel, but then something impossible happened. The small ship suddenly changed direction at full speed, pulling a turn that should have torn any ship apart. "Impossible," the weapons officer shouted. "Nothing can maneuver like that." The human ship darted between 2 dreadnoughts, moving so fast the massive alien vessels couldn't turn their weapons quickly enough to track it. Then, without warning, the small ship fired. A thin blue beam shot out from its bow, so small it looked harmless compared to the dreadnought's massive weapons. But when it hit the side of one of the Dominion ships, it cut through the hull like it was paper. "How?" Thax roared. "Their weapons shouldn't be powerful enough." More alarms started blaring. The other 5 human ships were doing the same thing, darting between the massive dreadnoughts, firing those precise, devastating beams. The Dominion ship's size worked against them. They were too big and slow to catch the nimble human vessels. "My lord," the sensor officer's voice shook. "New contacts appearing. Hundreds of them. Thousands. All around the Dominion fleet, space seemed to shimmer as human ships dropped their stealth systems. They appeared everywhere. Above, below, between the massive alien ships. Each one was small, but they moved with incredible speed and precision." "Impossible." Thax slammed his fist on his command console. "Our scans showed nothing. Where did they come from?" The answer came in the form of more blue beams slicing through his fleet's defenses. The human ships moved like a swarm of angry bees, too fast to hit, too numerous to avoid. Their weapons, despite their small size, pierced straight through the supposedly impenetrable shields of the dreadnoughts. "Return fire, Thax ordered frantically. But the massive guns of his ships were useless. Designed to hit large targets, they couldn't track the small, swift human vessels. It was like trying to swat flies with a tree trunk. On the bridge of Swift Victory, Admiral Reed watched the battle unfold. "Send in the second wave," he ordered calmly. "Show them what our tiny fleet can really do." More human ships decloaked, joining the attack. They moved in perfect coordination, their quantum-compressed weapons proving that size truly didn't matter. Where the Dominion had built their ships to be impressive and intimidating, humanity had built theirs to be lethal and efficient. One of the mighty dreadnoughts was already drifting, its engines cut off by precise strikes. 2 more had massive holes carved through their command decks. The rest were frantically trying to turn their massive bulk to face the threats that seemed to come from every direction at once. Lord Thax watched in horror as his perfect formation fell apart. He had brought a fleet of giants to crush what he thought was a primitive species. Instead, he found himself in the middle of a swarm of deadly wasps, each one carrying the power of a dreadnought in a package 1/10 the size. The first battle was turning into a massacre, but not the kind the Dominion had planned. The space around Earth had turned into chaos. The mighty Dominion dreadnoughts, once arranged in a perfect attack formation, now spun in desperate circles trying to target the swarm of human ships darting between them. "Status report," Lord Thax demanded, his voice no longer carrying its usual confidence. "3 dreadnoughts disabled, my lord," his officer replied, gripping his console as the ship shook from another hit. 4 more reporting major damage. "We can't track these human ships. They're too fast." A small human vessel zipped past their main viewport, so close they could see its hull markings. It was barely longer than one of their ship's gun barrels, yet it carried weapons that cut through their best shields like they weren't even there. "Reform the line," Thax ordered. "Get the damaged ships behind us. We still have the advantage of size." But size had become their greatest weakness. The human ships exploited every blind spot in the massive dreadnought's design. They attacked from angles the big ships couldn't defend, hitting critical systems with surgical precision. On the bridge of his ship, Admiral Reed watched the battle unfold with calm satisfaction. "Order attack pattern Delta," he commanded. "Show them what our targeting systems can do." Across the battlefield, the human ships moved as one. Their quantum-compressed engines let them pull tight turns that would have torn apart larger vessels. They flew in formations that looked chaotic, but followed precise mathematical patterns, making them impossible to predict or track. "My lord," Thax's weapons officer shouted in panic. "Their attack patterns. They're not random. They're targeting our shield generators in sequence. Our computers can't keep up with their movements." Another explosion rocked the massive flagship. A squad of 5 human ships had just carved a perfect pentagon of holes through one of the dreadnought's main engine blocks. The precision was terrifying. They had cut through exactly the right spots to disable the engine without causing a catastrophic explosion. "How?" Thax demanded. "How are their weapons so powerful? They're so small." On his own bridge, Reed smiled as he watched the Dominion ships struggling. "Send in the striker teams," he ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you pack a dreadnought's worth of power into a ship 1/10 the size." New groups of human ships emerged from stealth, each one carrying specialized weapons. Some fired electromagnetic pulses that shut down entire sections of the massive alien ships. Others used precision beams to cut power conduits and communication arrays. The larger the target, the more vulnerable it was to these surgical strikes. "My lord," Thax's second-in-command spoke quietly. Perhaps we should withdraw. Regroup and develop new tactics." "Retreat," Thax roared. "Before these toys." Another blast rocked the ship. On their screens, they watched as one of their proudest dreadnoughts, the Imperial Glory, spun helplessly in space. A group of human ships had disabled its engines so precisely that it couldn't even manage emergency power. "These aren't toys," the second-in-command said, watching another display showing 3 human ships effortlessly evading their best tracking systems. "This is a completely different kind of warfare. We never imagined." A new alarm blared through the command deck. The human ships had begun a new attack pattern, moving in 3-dimensional formations that made them even harder to track. Their weapons found weak points that the Dominion engineers had never thought needed protecting, spots that were supposed to be unreachable by any normal ship's weapons. "Send the signal," Thax finally ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. All ships fall back. Emergency retreat to safe distance." But as the massive dreadnoughts tried to turn their bulk around, the human ships pressed their advantage. They had spent years preparing for this moment, designing their vessels and tactics specifically to defeat the oversized ships that the galaxy had come to rely on. The age of the dreadnought was ending, not with an epic clash of titans, but with the precise, deadly strikes of ships so small their enemies had laughed at them. Size, as humanity had proven, truly didn't matter. Lord Thax's command bridge had turned from a place of proud authority into a scene of chaos. Warning lights flashed everywhere, and the sounds of multiple alarm systems filled the air. His once mighty fleet of dreadnoughts was falling apart around him. "My lord," his second-in-command spoke up, "Captain Rex of the Star Crusher is requesting permission to surrender." "Surrender?" Thax spun around. "To these superior forces," another officer finished firmly. "My lord, we've lost 6 dreadnoughts already. 4 more can't fight. We need to accept reality." On their main screen, they watched as another group of human ships executed a perfect attack run. The small vessels moved in formation like a school of fish, each one firing at exactly the right moment to disable another section of a Dominion ship's weapons. "How many human ships are there now?" Thax demanded. The sensor officer checked his readings. "Over 5,000 confirmed contacts, my lord. And more keep appearing from stealth mode." A massive explosion lit up space nearby. One of their dreadnoughts had tried to fire its main weapon, but the human ships had somehow reflected the energy back at it. The mighty ship now drifted powerless, its own attack having crippled it. "Impossible," Thax muttered. "Our ships are the largest in the galaxy. Our weapons are the most powerful ever built. How can they?" His words were cut off as Admiral Reed's face appeared on their main screen. The human commander looked calm and professional, showing none of the fear that Thax had expected from a primitive species. "Lord Thax," Reed spoke clearly, "your fleet is defeated. You have 2 options: surrender or watch as we disable every one of your ships. Your choice." "You dare," Thax began, but several of his bridge officers stepped forward. "My lord," his weapons chief said firmly, "we can't hit them. Their ships are too small and fast for our targeting systems. Our weapons were designed to fight other big ships, not these wasps." Another blast rocked the flagship. On their tactical display, they watched as human ships executed what they called Operation Swarm. Hundreds of small vessels moved in perfect coordination, creating patterns that confused the Dominion's targeting computers while letting them attack from multiple angles at once. "My lord," the second-in-command stepped closer. "We must surrender. Look." The main screen showed a new sensor reading. Beyond the visible human ships, thousands more were decloaking. They had been there the whole time, waiting in stealth mode. The tiny fleet that the Dominion had mocked was actually the largest armada they had ever encountered. "All those ships," the sensor officer whispered, "they were here the whole time. We just couldn't see them." Thax slumped in his command chair. His mighty dreadnoughts, which had terrorized the galaxy with their size and power, were being taken apart piece by ships he had called toys. Every attempt to fight back only proved how vulnerable their large ships were to the humans' precise, coordinated attacks. Send the surrender signal," he finally ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. As white flags appeared on the Dominion ship's communication arrays, Admiral Reed turned to his bridge crew. "Signal all ships, cease attack, accept their surrender." The human ships broke off their attack runs, but maintained their positions, surrounding the defeated Dominion fleet. Their very presence now seemed like a mockery of Thax's earlier boasts about size and power. "Sir," Reed's communication officer spoke up, "we're getting signals from other ships in the sector, the Galactic Council's observation vessels. They recorded everything." Reed nodded slowly. The galaxy would soon know that humanity's tiny fleet had defeated the mighty Dominion armada. Size, as they had proven beyond any doubt, meant nothing compared to innovation, efficiency, and tactical superiority. "Send word to Earth," Reed ordered. "Operation Swarm is complete. The Dominion fleet has surrendered." He paused, then added with a slight smile, "and informed them that our tiny ships performed perfectly." The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council looked very different from 1 week ago. Where there had once been laughter at humanity's tiny fleet, now there was respectful silence. Representatives from every major spacefaring race watched as Admiral Reed addressed the assembly. "The battle recordings have been shared with all council members," Reed said calmly, standing in the same spot where his ships had once been mocked. "They show exactly how our fleet defeated the Dominion dreadnoughts." Elder Voss leaned forward in his floating pod. "Admiral Reed, the Council wishes to formally apologize for dismissing humanity's capabilities. We were incorrect in our assumptions about ship design." In the back of the chamber, Lord Thax stood under guard, his once proud stance now humbled. His mighty fleet lay scattered across Earth's solar system, most ships still undergoing repairs after their surrender. "The Council is particularly interested in your quantum compression technology," another representative spoke up. "The ability to pack so much power into such small ships. It changes everything we thought we knew about space warfare." Reed nodded. "Size, as we proved, doesn't determine military capability. Our ships may be small, but they're pure efficiency. No wasted space, no unnecessary mass." The chamber's main display showed detailed scans of the human ships that had won the battle. Many council members leaned forward, studying the elegant designs with new respect. "We would like to propose a new classification system for military vessels," Elder Voss announced. "One based on actual combat capability rather than physical size. Humanity has shown us that our old standards are outdated." Engineering Chief Maria Wells, standing beside Reed, stepped forward. "Earth is willing to share some of our shipbuilding principles," she offered. "Not our military secrets, but the basic concepts of quantum compression and efficient design." The announcement caused excited murmurs throughout the chamber. Several representatives immediately began making notes and signaling their interest. "And what of the Dominion fleet?" someone asked. Reed turned to look at Thax. "Their ships will be returned once repairs are complete. We've even helped improve some of their systems. They were quite impressed with our engineering team's efficiency." Thax spoke for the first time, his voice lacking its former arrogance. "The humans could have destroyed our ships completely. Instead, they disabled them with surgical precision. Even in victory, they proved their superiority." The council members nodded in agreement. The battle recordings had shown how the human ships targeted specific systems, avoiding unnecessary destruction. It was a display of not just technical capability, but tactical wisdom. "Earth will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council," Elder Voss declared. "Furthermore, we request that humanity lead a new committee on innovative ship design and space combat tactics." Reed smiled slightly. "We accept, though we hope our techniques will be used for defense rather than conquest." As the meeting continued, other races began approaching the human delegation. Some offered trade agreements, others military alliances. The species that had been laughed at for their tiny ships was now being courted by the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Later, as Reed and Wells walked back to their ship, they passed a group of alien engineers studying the human vessel with obvious admiration. "Quite a change from last week," Wells commented. "Remember how they laughed at our ship size?" Reed watched as a young alien engineer excitedly pointed out features of their compact design to his colleagues. "Sometimes the biggest lessons come in small packages," he said with a smile. Back on Earth, shipyards were already receiving orders from other worlds for vessels built using human design principles. The age of massive, inefficient ships was ending. Humanity had shown the galaxy a better way, one that proved size truly didn't matter. In the end, the species that had been mocked for their tiny fleet had revolutionized space warfare forever. Their victory wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about changing how an entire galaxy thought about power, efficiency, and the true meaning of technological advancement.